Discover the hidden traps of sexual desire that are silently destroying your amazing life forever. Jake stood in his garage, hands smeared with grease, as the sun dipped low over Maplewood. The sweet smell of barbecues wafted through the air, a comforting reminder of the weekends spent with family and neighbors. But as the laughter echoed from the yard next door, an unsettling weight bore down on his chest. Here he was, a dedicated mechanic and family man, but something inside him clenched tighter with every passing day. Lines of worry etched deeper on his forehead as bills piled high, and dreams of a perfect life began to slip through his fingers like sand. He gulped hard, overwhelmed by the routine that consumed him. Each day felt endless, a cycle of fixing cars and settling family squabbles over chores. He loved Sarah, adored his kids, but the vibrancy of life had dulled, leaving only the humdrum of expectations and responsibilities. Just when he thought he could embrace monotony, a whirlwind of a neighbor changed everything. Lisa moved in next door, her laughter ringing out like a bell, drawing him in like a moth to a flame. Conversations became electric. Every stolen glance sparked something within him he thought was long extinguished. The playful banter felt like a fresh breeze, something intoxicating he had forgotten even existed. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, with every text exchanged in secrecy, Jake spiraled deeper into a conflict that clawed at his heart. He loved Sarah, who held his hand through every storm, but Lisa was a warmth he hadn't felt in years. The fantasy of freedom, adventure, and youthful excitement tugged at him like a siren's call. Each flirtation raised the stakes, and the thrill distracted him from the cracks forming in the foundation of his home life. One night, he found himself lost in dreams of what could be, his heart racing at the thought of happiness outside his mundane life. But reality hit like an icy splash of water when the screen of his phone lit up with a message from Lisa. Sarah, just coming in from folding laundry, saw it all. Her expression twisted into one of disbelief and hurt, the confrontation igniting a firestorm of emotions that had been smothered for so long. "Tell me it's not what it looks like," she cried, her voice trembling, casting shadows of doubt in Jake's heart. How had they reached this breaking point? The love that once filled their home now hung heavy in the air, and in her eyes, he saw a flicker of shattered trust. Standing at that precipice, Jake battled the powerful urge that called him toward the unknown, while the lives he loved hung in the balance. Tears filled Sarah's eyes, burning into Jake's soul like an inferno. He realized then, amid the chaos, what he truly stood to lose: their memories, children's laughter, and the sense of belonging that he once prided himself on. The weight of his choices anchored him, heart racing as the stakes surged higher. Would he fight to reclaim his family, or surrender to the chaos that threatened to shatter everything? The tension crackled around him, and Jake stood on the edge of a decision that could forever alter the course of their lives, uncertain if redemption was within his grasp. Jake felt his heart pound in his chest as Sarah's words sliced through the stillness of the room. The air thickened with tension, and he wasn't sure how to respond. He searched her face, looking for something: understanding, love, or perhaps forgiveness. Instead, all he saw was betrayal reflected back at him, and it tore him apart inside. "Sarah," he started, but the words stuck in his throat. How could he explain the swirl of emotions that conflicted within him? The thrill of Lisa's attention felt like a drug, and the guilt of it clawed at the edges of his mind. "It's not what you think. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Sarah shook her head, the shimmer of tears catching the light. "How could you do this, Jake? After everything we've been through?" Her voice trembled, echoing with pain. "I thought we had a good life." He felt like a coward, hiding behind excuses that wouldn't hold. "We do. I love you." But it's like he paused, searching for the right words to explain a void he hadn't even known existed until Lisa filled it. It's just, I felt lost, like I've been fading away in the everyday. Sarah stiffened, hurt flashing in her eyes. And so you find it in someone else? Is that how you fix it? The accusation hung in the air like a storm cloud, and Jake could feel it crackling. He took a step closer, desperate to comfort her, to show her how much he still cared. No, I never meant to hurt you. Please let me fix this. But fixing it seemed insurmountable. He knew he was standing in the rubble of his own choices. That's what you said when I asked you to help out more, when I needed you home for dinner. Every word she spoke dripped with hurt, and Jake felt each one as if they were arrows piercing his heart. He swallowed hard, his throat dry. He had been so caught up in chasing fleeting moments of excitement that he hadn't seen how far he had distanced himself from Sarah and their family. I know I've made mistakes, but I want to change. I'll do anything. Anything? She challenged, her voice rising. What would that even look like? Jake looked into her eyes, suddenly seeing the truth that had eluded him for so long. He had to confront his own demons, not just the ones he conjured with Lisa. He had to fight for the family he once cherished, that vibrant life he thought he was missing out on, which was right there all along. Just give me a chance, he pleaded, his voice breaking. Let me show you that I can be the man you deserve. The hope in his chest was fragile, almost laughable against the storm of emotion brewing between them. But it was a glimmer he clung to, fighting the instinct to flee into the chaos outside. For a long, painful moment, silence settled like a thick fog. Jake's eyes remained locked on hers, waiting for a sign. A flicker of the love he knew was still buried beneath the hurt. Then, finally, she nodded slowly, the weight of her response carrying the burden of uncertainty. Okay, but what does that actually mean? What are you willing to do? That question hung between them, heavy with potential. Jake felt a flicker of determination ignite within him. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to fight for what mattered. Let us start by talking. I want us to be open about everything. You and me. No more secrets, he said, feeling stronger with each word as he spoke. He saw a glimmer of hope ignite in Sarah's eyes, but just as quickly, it was cloaked by shadows of doubt. She stepped back, crossing her arms, her mind racing with everything that had transpired. Let us see, she replied finally. But you have to understand that trust has to be rebuilt. You're on notice, Jake. He nodded, feeling both encouraged and terrified. Was he truly capable of changing? Could he reclaim the love he was on the verge of losing? The path before him was uncertain, and as Jake steeled himself for the journey ahead, he realized every step would test the limits of his resolve. He still had to find a way to manage not just his home life, but the entanglements that had led him here. The thought of Lisa lingered in his mind like a siren's song, challenging the commitment he was longing to reinforce. Would he be able to resist, or would the temptation draw him back? On the edge of resolution, Jake's heart raced with apprehension at the challenges yet to unfold. What awaited him next was beyond anything he could control. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of Sarah's words hang heavily in the air. The storm around them felt louder, as if the world outside was mocking the struggle within their walls. He wrung his hands, trying to ground himself in this moment, the very essence of his life at stake. Okay, he said finally, finding a new resolve. Let us talk right now. What do you want to know? Sarah looked at him, her expression a mix of disbelief and curiosity. I want to know what you were thinking, Jake. What was it that made you compromise everything we built? His mind raced back to the moments that led him astray. The compliments, the flirty gestures, the feeling of being seen in a way he hadn't felt in years. But deep down, he knew this wasn't truly about Lisa. I got caught up in the excitement of it all, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Felt like a way to escape. But I realize now it was just a distraction. A distraction? Sarah echoed, disbelief painted across her face. You put everything on the line for a distraction? Jake flinched at the raw honesty of her question. Yes. I thought I could find something that was missing in our life. But I see it now, I can't fill a void with empty thrills. And what about me? She took a step closer, her eyes searching his for sincerity. What is it you want me to believe? That you'll just fix everything and we'll go back to how things were? I don't expect that, he said quickly. I want us to create something new. I want to reconnect with you, more than ever. The silence slipped back between them, a chasm filled with uncertainty and the tiniest glimmer of hope. Sarah finally shifted her gaze, her eyes landing on the framed photos dotting their living room. Memories of happier times stared back at them, reminders of love once vibrant. I loved when we used to dance in the kitchen, she said suddenly. The softness in her tone thickened the air between them with nostalgia. You'd spin me around, and I'd laugh until my stomach hurt. Jake felt emotion well up in his throat at the memory. We can have that again. Promise, I'll fight for it. A flicker of a smile flickered on Sarah's lips but quickly faded. What if you slip again? What if you fall for that thrill instead of me? Then I'll face the consequences, Jake vowed. Every single one. Because you and the kids are worth more to me than any fleeting moment. In response, she took a step back, crossing her arms defensively once more. And if I can't believe you? If the scars are too deep? His heart sank at her unyielding doubt. Then I'll show you. Every day I'll show you. The vulnerability laid bare between them was new and terrifying. Jake recognized that he was on precarious ground, uncertain whether trust would blossom again or if he would be met with the cage of Sarah's guarded heart. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside, shattering the intimate moment. They both jumped, tension snapping in an instant. What was that? Sarah whispered, her eyes darting toward the window. Jake's instincts kicked in. I'll check. As he turned away, the shadows of doubt and the thrill of insecurity chased him. He stepped toward the door, but then paused, casting one last glance over his shoulder. Sarah, no matter what happens, I'll keep working to earn your trust. Just as he opened the door to the chaos outside, he realized that this moment might change everything. The fallout from his mistakes was just beginning, as were the trials that awaited both of them. And all he could do was hope that this time he could rise above it all. Would he find the strength, or would he unravel before her eyes? The wind howled outside, punctuated by the rhythmic thuds of rain against the windows. Jake pushed the door open, the chill of the storm hitting him like a slap in the face. He stepped onto the porch, eyes scanning the darkness. A scattering of branches littered the yard, remnants of the wind's fury. But it was the overturned trash can that caught his attention. The neighborhood was a sea of silence, the storm eclipsing any usual sounds of life. Jake's heart raced. What had caused the crash that had sent them tumbling from the brink of a fragile connection? Jake! Sarah's voice called from the doorway, a mix of worry and vulnerability in her tone. I'm here, he shouted back, stepping further into the storm. He could feel the shadows closing in around him, not just the darkness of the night, but the weight of unresolved tension. He inhaled deeply, the crisp air mixing with the petrichor of wet earth. This chaos mirrored the tempest within him, both confusing and fierce. In that moment, he realized how easily everything could slip away. He could turn his back and pretend that the problem was out there in the world with the storm. But he knew that wasn't true. The storm brewing within their hearts was just as dangerous, if not more. He bent to right the trash can, hearing a soft shuffle behind him. Sarah stepped out, her silhouette framed by the faint light of the house. Please, just come back inside, she pleaded, her voice fragile. It's not safe out here. For a split second, he considered running, escaping the weight of their conversation. But instead, he turned to face her, the flickering light catching the determination in her eyes. No, I need to be out here, he said softly. I need to fight for this. Fight for what exactly? She asked, crossing her arms against the chill. Your second chance? Or the thrill of life outside of us? Jake felt a twinge of frustration but quickly redirected it. For us, Sarah. I want to fight for this relationship. I want something real, not a cheap thrill. His heart thumped loudly in his chest as he took a step closer. I'm learning what really matters, what I almost lost. A silence grew between them, heavy with unspoken fears and hopes. The rain intensified, but he could see the flicker of something behind her guarded eyes. Was it hope? Or was it doubt still holding her captive? Do you even know how to fight for something like this? Sarah finally whispered, her voice wavering. I do, he replied, sincerity spilling from his heart. I thought I knew it all before, but I've never truly fought for the right things. Now I want to prove it to you. She shook her head, battling the tears brimming in her eyes. Proving it isn't enough when the scars are still fresh. Every day will be a test, Jake, and I don't want to set myself up for failure again. He stepped even closer, reaching out tentatively, as if afraid to bridge the distance that had grown. I understand. All I can do is take each moment one step at a time. I want to show you I want to be that man, whatever it takes. As the storm swirled around them, Jake felt a delicate shift in the air. Maybe they had just taken the first step back from the edge. But just then, a fierce gust of wind blew through, knocking more debris across the porch. Jake instinctively shielded Sarah, the chaos of the storm reflecting the upheaval in their lives. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he sensed they were standing on a precipice. What if this storm doesn't pass? She murmured, her voice lost among the howling winds. Jake held her gaze. Then we weather it together. As they stood in the storm's embrace, every breath charging with uncertainty, a flicker of light caught his eye. A figure loomed in the shadows at the end of the street, watching them closely. Jake's stomach dropped. We're not alone. Was this figure someone from their past? A reminder of Jake's mistakes? Or a specter of their lost trust? The moment felt charged with impending revelations, and Jake couldn't shake the feeling that whatever came next would shake them to the core. Who is that? Sarah asked, her voice rising just above the storm. Jake could only shake his head. I don't know, but we need to find out. As he took a step forward, everything they fought for seemed as fragile as the storm itself, ready to break apart at a moment's notice. It was becoming clear that the real battle was about to begin. Would they find a way to hold on? Or would this new chapter lead them to further heartache? The figure at the end of the street shifted, just a silhouette against the pouring rain. It was hard to tell. There was too much shadow, too much confusion in the tumultuous night. Jake felt a tingle of skepticism creeping through him. Instinctively, he reached for Sarah's hand, intertwining their fingers. Stay close, he urged, his voice steady despite the roaring storm. As he moved toward the edge of the porch, Sarah hesitated. Jake, are you sure? What if it's someone looking to cause trouble? We can't let fear hold us back, he said, feeling both resolute and fearful. Each step felt heavier than the last, the weight of their struggles pulling him down. The figure stepped closer, emerging from the darkness, rain cascading off a hood that obscured their face. A chill ran through Jake as he strained to recognize them. The figure took a step forward, and a broad shoulder came into view, followed by a streak of familiar tawny hair. Wait, is that Ryan? Sarah murmured, her voice tinged with disbelief. Jake's heart sank. Ryan was an old friend, but his presence felt like a ghost from their past, a reminder of Jake's reckless decisions. Just then, Ryan pulled down his hood, revealing an almost apologetic face caught in the storm's fierce embrace. Jake! Sarah! He shouted, voice barely audible over the wind. I need to talk to you. What do you want? Jake shot back, resisting the urge to step back. Just listen, Ryan pleaded. It's important, and life or death. Jake exchanged a glance with Sarah. 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind, how he had once admired Ryan for his spontaneity, how his own choices had led them down dangerous paths. But the flicker of urgency in Ryan's eyes made him pause. Perhaps this urgency would bring clarity to their own storm. Fine, but you better make it quick. We're not in the mood for games, Jake replied, feeling the storm echoing the frustrations inside him. We should get inside, Sarah suggested, pulling Jake closer as the wind picked up again. No, Jake insisted, if he has something to say, we'll hear it out here. He wasn't ready to retreat from the rain, the chaos. It reflected the whirlwind of emotions he felt for Sarah, the fight for their relationship that still hung in the air. Ryan took a deep breath, steadying himself against the elements. I came here because I saw something that could affect you both. What are you talking about? Sarah asked, her brows knitting together in confusion. I'm being serious, Ryan exclaimed. I stumbled upon information that could put you at risk. It's about someone you both thought was out of the picture. Jake's heart raced. What do you mean? Each word felt sticky, every ounce of him wanting to dismiss Ryan's drama. But curiosity and concern clawed at his resolve. An old enemy, someone who wants revenge. Revenge because of you, Jake. The storm seemed to hush in that moment, the world narrowing to that single, shocking revelation. Jake felt the ground beneath him shift, though it was nothing compared to the turmoil churning within him. Who? What are you talking about? He demanded, urgency flooding his voice. Just listen to me, Ryan's voice quivered with desperation. You need to prepare. If you don't face this now, it will tear you apart. Sarah's grip tightened on Jake's hand, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. Jake swallowed hard, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Tell us what we need to do, Sarah urged, stepping forward, her fierce protective instinct rising. The wind howled again, echoing the doubt that lingered over them, a whisper of uncertainty that both of them could hear. But Jake couldn't help but think, was this truly a storm brewing outside, or had he already summoned one from within? As Ryan opened his mouth to speak, the sky cracked with thunder, and in that moment, Jake knew they were teetering on the edge of something completely new, a battle unlike any they had fought before. Would they really find the strength to face their past? Or were they merely unveiling another storm on the horizon? The rain pounded harder, a relentless percussion echoing the rapid beating of Jake's heart. He could feel a pressure building in the air around them, heavy with unspoken words and unacknowledged fears. Ryan's eyes darted nervously, as if there were ghosts lurking in the shadows beyond their porch. Just tell us what you know, Jake said, his voice cutting through the noise of the storm. He felt the steady warmth of Sarah's hand in his, grounding him. Ryan took a shaky breath and began. I know it's been years since you last saw him, but Mark is back. He has been asking about you. Mark? Sarah echoed, perplexity etched across her face. But we thought he moved away, disappeared for good. Jake clenched his jaw as a flurry of memories washed over him, bitter arguments, betrayal, friendships torn apart. Mark had always been the wild card, the one who pushed boundaries until things came crashing down. The nagging dread in the pit of his stomach ballooned. What does he want? He is angry about everything. He believes you owe him for what happened. Ryan's voice was low, urgent. Every word felt like a rock thrown into Jake's well of unease. I wasn't the only one responsible. Jake shot back, frustration bubbling in his chest. That was a long time ago, Ryan. Why should we let him pull us back into his drama? Because he is not here to talk, Ryan insisted, stepping closer, eyes locked on Jake's. He wants payback, and he is willing to use anyone to get it, even Sarah. The air around them felt charged, heavy with tension. Jake's head spun for a moment. Ryan's revelation loomed larger than any storm. No, he said weakly, shaking his head. Not her. She has done nothing. I know that, Ryan urged, the rain continuing to pour, soaking him through, but Mark doesn't care. He sees this as a game. He wants to control everything, and he'll do whatever it takes. A silence fell, broken only by the sound of rain striking the ground, creating little rivers that wound their way through darkened streets. Sarah's grip squeezed tighter around Jake's fingers, her eyes searching his face for answers he didn't have. What do we do? She whispered, a hint of fear threading through her calm demeanor. She had always been the strong one, the pillar of hope when Jake found it hard to believe in anything. Yet now, uncertainty clouded her bright gaze. Jake took a moment, his mind racing with strategies. Planning an escape, seeking help, confronting Mark directly. But with each option, a shadow loomed behind it, the dread of past mistakes. We face him, Jake finally said, the decision coming out stronger than he felt. I won't let him threaten our lives any longer. Ryan looked relieved but wary. It won't be easy. He won't come alone. You need to prepare. Get everyone together, family, friends, anyone who'll stand with you. Where do we even start? Sarah asked, looking up at Jake desperately. I'll figure it out, he promised, but doubt crept in. He felt ill-equipped, like a ship tossed in turbulent waters without a compass. They were all bound to Mark's reckless past, and the feeling of chains clicking into place left a bitter taste in his mouth. Jake, Ryan interjected, urgency mounting in his voice. This is more than the three of us now. This is a war brewing, and if we don't act swiftly, it's not just our lives at stake. The intensity of his words settled between them, a stark reminder of the reality they faced. In that moment, as the storm raged around them, Jake felt an unsettling resolve. They had survived before. Maybe they could do it again. But beneath the resolve lay the truth: how many battles could they fight before they finally broke? The thunder roared above them again, emphatic, a reminder of the chaos about to descend. And as Jake steeled himself against the stranger waiting in the dark, a flicker of doubt slithered through him. What if this time it was more than he could handle? Jake took a steadying breath, propelled forward by fear and determination. Let us get moving. But just as they turned to head inside, a sharp flash of lightning illuminated the street, and Jake saw a shadow waiting beyond the threshold. His heart dropped. They weren't alone anymore. Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Was it too late to shield themselves from the storm that was quickly closing in? Jake's heart thudded in his chest as he squinted through the veil of rain, the shadow morphing into a familiar figure. Mark stood there, drenched and wild-eyed, with a smirk that sent a chill through Jake's spine. The world around them faded. It was just Mark and the heavy tension hanging in the air. Surprise! Mark called out over the roaring storm, his voice laced with a twisted sense of excitement. I bet you didn't think you'd see me again. Jake felt Sarah's hand squeeze tighter, the warmth suddenly feeling fragile in the face of the tempest their former friend had become. What do you want, Mark? Jake hissed, anger and fear intertwining in his throat. Oh, come on, Mark replied, stepping closer despite the rain. Isn't it obvious? I want to talk, or should I say, I want to settle old scores. Settle your scores? You're out of your mind. Jake shot back, his mind racing for a plan. Mark had always thrived in conflict, using it like breathing air. Who says I'm the crazy one here? Mark sneered. You think you can just leave the past behind? You owe me, and I'm here to collect. Ryan moved between Mark and Sarah, flaring with protective energy. You won't touch her, Mark. Neither of us will let you. Is that what you think? Mark laughed, a sound devoid of genuine mirth. You think you're strong enough to protect her? Look at you, standing there drenched with fear. You've already lost before the game even started. Jake's breath hitched in his throat. Mark's words felt like knives. They cut deep. Hadn't he spent years trying to forget the mistakes that had caused their rift? Now they were thrust back into the battlefield they once knew, and the specter of his past loomed large. Get inside, Jake urged Sarah, his voice low but urgent. She hesitated, her eyes darting between him and Mark, fear flickering in her gaze. No, Mark shouted, spitting the word with venom. I wouldn't be so sure if I were you. Does Sarah really know the whole story? What does that mean? Sarah's voice trembled, uncertainty weaving through her words. Mark took a step forward, his eyes glinting with a dangerous thrill. Oh, she doesn't know, does she? The secrets we buried, the things we did. You really think I'm here to settle for just a little chat? No, I'm here to play for keeps. Stop it, Jake shouted, feeling the swell of desperation. He didn't want Sarah to be dragged into this twisted game. You think you can scare us? You're wrong. Scare you? Mark smiled slowly, a sinister twist to his lips. No, Jake, I'm going to enjoy watching you squirm. This isn't just me against you anymore. It's everyone you care about. The gravity of his words sank in, and Jake felt bile rise in his throat. The storm raged on around them, mirroring the tempest within him. How had everything spiraled into this chaos? Ryan, Jake murmured, turning to his friend. We need those people we can trust. We can't let him win. Then we need a plan, Ryan said, eyes sharp and focused. Now, But before they could form thoughts into actions, a sickening feeling washed over them. The wind howled louder, almost echoing Marquez's laughter. The rain started to let up, but the reality of what lay ahead felt more daunting than ever. Every second they delayed put everyone they loved in danger. "Come back, Jake," Mark called out, his voice booming in the quiet that followed the rain. "I'll be waiting, and I assure you, you won't like what you find." Jake turned, feeling like the ground beneath him had shifted. The storm wasn't just about the rain anymore. It was about battles they hadn't even begun to fight. As fear grappled inside him, Jake steeled himself. "We'll draw the line here, Mark. You're not taking anything more." But as they stepped back into the porch, hearts pounding and thoughts racing, a deep rumble rolled through the air, the sound of distant thunder, heavy and ominous. "Jake?" Sarah whispered, her forehead creased with worry. "Are we really ready for what's coming?" In that moment, Jake began to understand something profound. Sometimes the most ferocious storms come from within, and often the hardest battles to fight are the ones that are left unspoken. What had they buried in the past that might rise again to haunt them? The atmosphere in the porch felt electric, charged with unspoken fears and tensions that had been brewing beneath the surface for far too long. Jake's gaze drifted from the relentless storm outside to Sarah, who stood beside him. Her expression, a mixture of concern and determination, mirrored his own swirling thoughts. The world felt heavy, like the air before a storm. It was a premonition of the chaos to come. "Jake, we can't just sit here," Ryan interjected, breaking the silence. His voice was urgent, sliced through the weight of uncertainty that hung thick like fog. "That guy's not just here for a chat. We need to figure out how to approach this." Jake nodded, taking a deep breath. "You're right. Mark won't stop until he gets what he wants. And we're running out of time." He glanced at Sarah again, trying to read her expression. "But what if he uses her against us? I can't let that happen." Sarah shifted her weight from one foot to the other, anxiety flickering across her face. "What does he want from me? What is this secret he's talking about?" She crossed her arms tightly, as if trying to shield herself from the truth. Maybe it's not just about you," Jake said slowly, piecing together the fragments of their shared past. Different scenes from their history burst into his memory, shared laughter, dreams, and then the riptide of betrayal that had pulled them apart. "Mark knows how to play dirty. If we dig deep enough, we might uncover what he's really after. Let us not get ahead of ourselves," Ryan cautioned, pulling out his phone, its light cutting through the dim porch. "We need allies. We can't fight this alone." Jake swallowed. The thought of involving more people made his stomach churn. But he recognized that Mark's threats weren't empty. They were a dark promise of consequences. "Who do we trust? Everyone we thought we could rely on has been dragged into Mark's twisted game." "Maybe we start with less," Sarah suggested. "He knows more about Mark's past than anyone. If he understands how Mark thinks, he could help us turn the tables." Jake hesitated, remembering how Les had once been caught up in their conflict, a casualty of Mark's manipulation. "Are you sure? Last time we got him involved, it backfired spectacularly." "He's our best shot," Ryan said, resolve hardening his voice. "But we have to act fast. Every second we hesitate, Mark inches closer to his targets." With every heartbeat, Jake could feel fear mingling with determination. The thought of putting Sarah in danger pulled at his insides. "Fine, let us get him. But we do it together and we stick to the plan." Just as they stepped out into the still echoing rain, the wind picked up, swirling around them in a chaotic dance. The tension was palpable, each gust like a whisper of danger in their ears, urging them forward. But as they plunged back into the storm, Jake felt the weight of the looming confrontation settle onto his shoulders. Mark wasn't just coming for them. He was coming for everything they held dear. His resolve strengthened, and Jake locked eyes with Sarah, who squeezed his hand tighter. "Whatever happens," he said fiercely, "we face this together." As they regrouped and made their way to Les's house, a bone-deep instinct told Jake that the true threat lay not just in Mark's presence, but in the shadows of their past. What had been left unsaid and unhealed began to seep into the edges of his mind. Suddenly, a sharp crack of thunder echoed, reminiscent of Marcus' laughter. In that moment, realization washed over him. There was something darker at play, something buried deep inside him that he would have to confront. Jake? Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, urgency pulling him back to the present. What if he knows about? A chill raced down his spine, and dread settled in the pit of his stomach. I don't know, he replied, his heart racing. But we have to find out before he does. And as they rounded the corner toward Les's neighborhood, a subtle shift in the atmosphere hinted at the unveiling of hidden truths that could change everything. What secrets lay buried in their past, and would they be ready to face them when the moment arrived? The rain lashed against the pavement, each drop a reminder of the ticking clock. Jake's heart thudded in time with the pounding on the windows. With every step toward Les's house, a mix of urgency and fear swallowed them whole. There was no turning back now. Jake paused, peering through the darkened streets. Do you think he'll be home? Ryan shifted nervously, glancing at Sarah. He better be. We need every bit of information we can get. When they reached Les's front door, Jake raised his hand, uncertainty flickering across his expression. What if he doesn't want to help? We drag him into this mess once, and he has been through worse. Sarah cut in, her voice soothing yet firm. He'll want to help us. Just knock. Jake exhaled heavily and rapped on the door, the sound swallowed by the storm. Each second felt like an eternity until they heard footsteps. The door creaked open, revealing Les disheveled, anxiety written across his face. What's going on? We need to talk. It's urgent, Ryan said quickly, scanning the street behind them. Les stepped aside, motioning for them to come in, worry etched deep on his brow. You look like you've seen a ghost. What's happened? Inside, the warmth of Les's home contrasted sharply with the chaos outside. The flickering lights added an eerie feel, casting shadows that danced around the room. The four of them huddled together, creating a barrier against the storm that raged both inside and out. Mark is back, Jake said, voice low, and each word felt like a weight pressing down on him. Les's face fell, his eyes narrowing. I thought we were done with him. We thought so too, Sarah said, biting her lip. But he's threatening us. Specifically me. What does he want? Les's tone shifted from curiosity to suspicion. We don't know exactly, Jake replied. But it's got to be bad, and we suspect it has something to do with our past. Les's expression darkened. What do you mean by past? Ryan jumped in. Secrets and lies, Les. Things we buried, but Mark could drag them to the surface if we're not careful. We're in deep. You can't let him manipulate you again. Les clenched his fists, his struggle evident. I barely got over what happened last time. But you must trust me. I want to go down that path again. Then help us, Jake urged. We can't do this without someone who understands him. You're the key. A moment of silence hung in the air, heavy with the tension of unresolved feelings. Les's gaze darted to Sarah, and then back at Jake. If Mark knows about you too, then he's already ahead of us. He knows how to turn that against us. What do you mean? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Les hesitated, his thoughts tangled. If I reveal everything about my past and our connection to him, it could help us understand his next move. But you have to promise me this, whatever happens, you don't let him manipulate your feelings. Focus. Stay united. Jake exchanged glances with Sarah and Ryan. They all knew how easy it could be to fall back into old habits, to let emotions cloud their judgment. Okay, Jake said finally. We're with you. What do we need to do? Les nodded, and they began to talk strategy. They pored over every memory, every shadow of their past that tied them to Mark. With each revelation, the air thickened with regret and pain, as if every word was a confession laid bare. But just as they started to outline their plan, the atmosphere in the room shifted again. The lights flickered ominously, and an instinctual fear crept in. Jake's heart raced as he caught movement outside the window. Did you see that? He whispered, pressing closer to the glass. Les shot him a warning look. Don't. We can't let him know we're onto him. But Jake was already moving. Feeling an itch at the base of his skull, something was wrong. The shadows outside seemed to pulse with a life of their own, drawing nearer. Just then, a figure stepped into the light. It was Mark. A sly grin curled on his lips as he looked directly toward the house. Jake's stomach dropped. He knows in that crucial moment time froze. There they were on the precipice of a reckoning, but they had no idea just how deeply the truth would cut or what Mark truly planned to unveil. With a deep breath, Jake turned to them all, urgency flooding his voice. We need to move now. As they scrambled for a plan, an unsettling thought nagged at Jake. Could their bonds withstand the storm raging both outside and within? Only time would tell what sacrifices they might be forced to make. Jake's heart pounded fiercely as he stood at the edge of the fight, a battle for his family, his future, and the fragile threads of love he had almost unraveled. They needed a plan, and it had to come together swiftly. We can't wait for him to make the first move, he urged, urgency tightening every word. We have to take the fight to him. Sarah's eyes widened with concern. Are you sure we're ready for this? We don't know what he is truly capable of. This feels like diving into the deep end without knowing how to swim. Jake stepped closer, intertwining his fingers with hers. We can't let fear dictate our lives. It already took so much. This is the moment we choose to fight back, not just for ourselves but for our kids. Les nodded in agreement, resolve setting his jaw. He wants you to be scared, Jake. That's his game. But if I know Mark, he is not coming alone. Whatever his plan is, it's going to be twisted and deceptive. Fear settled in the pit of Jake's stomach but was overcome by a surge of determination. Then we need to gather everyone who can stand with us. We need protection. Ryan's voice broke through the tension. We can't let him isolate us. Let us reach out to some of the other neighbors who had issues with Mark. This isn't just our fight anymore, everyone deserves to be safe. Jake took a deep breath. This was it. Turning point. They would no longer be pawns in someone else's game. All right, let us do this together as a team. They quickly devised a plan and split up. Jake headed to talk to the neighbors while Sarah and Ryan gathered their close circle. As Jake knocked on doors, he felt a relief with every friendly face that agreed to support them. Understanding blossomed among the community. Mark's threats wouldn't just stay contained. Realizing they weren't alone made the weight on Jake's shoulders a tad lighter. Jake, we're with you. Always, his neighbor Jim said firmly, shaking his hand. No one messes with us like that. Not now, not ever. With every promise of support, his resolve strengthened. Families banded together, sharing stories of how Mark's antics had impacted their lives. He had scattered fear throughout their community, but now it was transforming into a shared determination. As night fell, they gathered at Jake's house, united for a common purpose. The living room buzzed with anticipation, tangible energy pulsating through the air. Families held hands, whispers of encouragement floated around, and a collective spirit arose, a resilient force ignited by love, strength, and hope. I want to thank all of you for being here, Jake addressed the gathering. This is bigger than just us. If Mark thinks he can intimidate us, he is mistaken. We're a community. Let us show him what that means. The house erupted in cheers, emboldening their spirits. Together, we will face him, Jake declared, and confidence radiated off him. But as the night wore on, tension coiled tight. Sarah came to him, her eyes searching for reassurance. Do you think we really can stand against him? What's your plan? I believe in us, Sarah. We have something he can't take away, our unity, our love. We'll face him head on, no hiding. As the reality began to set in, Jake steeled himself. He felt ready. Protecting his family was worth the risk. He took a moment to look around the room, his heart swelling with pride. People were leaning on each other, sharing stories and laughter, creating strength from vulnerability. The dawn brought with it an ominous stillness, but Jake wouldn't falter. They stood together outside, the community rallied. Each friendly face felt like a shield against the uncertainty. We fight together. Whatever happens, we do this as one, Jake commanded. The air electric with anticipation. Mark's figure emerged, looking more menacing than ever. The storm mirrored the tumult in their hearts. "You think you can just band together and take me on?" he sneered, eyes glittering with contempt. Jake stepped forward, standing tall and unwavering. "This isn't just about you and me anymore, Mark. You made it personal, but now you're outnumbered. We are stronger than your fear and manipulation." "Very brave of you, Jake," Mark taunted, glancing at the crowd gathering behind him. "But bravery only works when your heart isn't about to shatter." The words cut deep, but Jake stood firm, summoning every ounce of strength. He wouldn't let Mark's words tear apart the community they had built. "You may think you control the narrative, but you won't win this time. We have each other, and together we're invincible." As the tension broke like waves crashing against rocks, Jake saw a flicker of uncertainty cross Mark's face. Maybe he had underestimated the warmth of community, the power that came from standing united. Just as everything began to settle, Mark's demeanor shifted. The bravado faded, revealing the underlying fear behind his threats. Seizing the moment, Jake took a step toward him and spoke with renewed resolve. "Leave, Mark. You don't belong here anymore. We're rebuilding and you're not part of this family or community. Go back to your shadows." For a brief moment, they all breathed as one, a collective exhale of hope, resilience, and unity. Mark's expression twisted with anger before he retreated into the shadows, leaving behind an explosive sense of liberation. As cheers rippled through the crowd, Jake felt the warmth of Sarah's hand in his, her smile brighter than ever. Maybe, just maybe, they had faced the monster lurking not only in Mark but in the fears they had kept hidden, and emerged whole. "I knew we could do it," Sarah said, her voice steady. "Together," Jake replied, wrapping an arm around her as their children ran into the light, laughter spilling like sunlight through winter clouds. Jake stood surrounded by love, knowing the biggest fights weren't always about defeating the enemy, but about healing, rebuilding, and valuing what truly mattered: their family and the community that had come together when it mattered most. And in that moment, everything felt possible again. The storms ahead would come. They always did, but they would face them together. There was no mistaking that love was worth every battle. Now, it's your moment to fight for stories that matter. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.